I couldn't believe my luck when I landed the night shift job at the old, decrepit mental asylum. They called it Street Mary's Sanitarium, but the locals had a different name for it, the Devil's Den. It was said to be haunted, and I laughed off such superstitious nonsense. Little did I know, my nights at St. Mary's would become a descent into unimaginable horror. On my very first night, I was greeted by the eerie silence that enveloped the place. The fluorescent lights cast long, ghastly shadows along the never-ending hallways, and the air felt unnaturally cold, even for a late autumn night. I settled into my desk, determined to make the most of this quiet job. Hours crept by as I stared at the security monitors, each camera showing a different part of the asylum. The place was massive, with a labyrinth of halls and rooms. Occasionally, I'd see flickers of movement, but I brushed them off as tricks of the dim lighting. I was a skeptic, after all. Around 3 a.m., I heard it, a faint, distant whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. My heart raced, and I clenched my fists, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination. But then, the whisper grew louder, as if someone was right behind me, breathing words I couldn't understand. Terrified, I turned to the nearest camera feed, and that's when I saw her, a young woman in a tattered white gown, her hair hanging over her face like a curtain. She was standing in the hallway, just outside the security room. Panic set in as I watched her slowly lift her head, revealing a face twisted into a grotesque, contorted smile. I froze, unable to move as the woman's hollow eyes locked onto mine through the camera. She whispered something that felt like it clawed at the very depths of my soul. It was then that I realized the chilling truth. I was not alone in St. Mary's. Summoning every ounce of courage, I rushed out of the security room and into the dimly lit corridor, determined to confront the woman. But when I reached the spot where she had been, there was nothing there. Just the cold, oppressive silence. I continued my rounds, my footsteps echoing through the empty hallways. It seemed like the asylum was playing tricks on me, doors opening and closing on their own, strange apparitions flickering in the corners of my vision. My skepticism was shattered, replaced by a paralyzing fear that I couldn't shake. As the night wore on, I heard more whispers, more unintelligible words that seemed to come from the very walls. I followed them, guided by an irresistible force, deeper into the labyrinthine asylum. Each step took me further from sanity and deeper into the heart of darkness. Finally, I reached a room that seemed to pulse with malevolence. The door creaked open, revealing a chamber bathed in an otherworldly, sickly green light. And there she was again, the woman in white, but this time she was surrounded by a group of otherworldly figures, their faces twisted in agony. I watched in horror as they danced and writhed, their movements unnatural and grotesque. The woman's voice, now louder and more sinister, led the horrific ritual. It was as if I had stumbled upon some unholy congregation of the damned. I tried to turn and run, but my feet were rooted to the spot. The whispers grew into a deafening cacophony, a maddening chorus of torment. The figures advanced toward me, their eyes filled with hunger, and I knew then that there was no escape. In that moment, I understood the true nature of St. Mary's Sanitarium. It was a place where the boundary between the living and the dead had blurred, where the horrors of the past clung to the present. I was just another hapless soul drawn into its nightmarish grip, destined to join the wailing specters that haunted its halls. And as the maddening whispers consumed me, I couldn't help but wonder if the Devil's Den was an apt name for this forsaken place. The horror of that night shift at St. Mary's would haunt me forever, a chilling reminder that some nightmares are all too real.